Brought to you in part by Monadnock Flooring and Decorating, offering quality sales, service, and installation for over 35 years on Production Avenue next to Subaru of Keene. Hey everybody, welcome to A Culinary Journey. I'm Luca and I'm going to take you on a culinary journey through beer. Yes, you heard me right, beer. But we're not going to be just drinking it, which would be a lot of fun also. We're going to be cooking with it. I'm going to make 3 dishes with some great beers. I have some great friends over at Clark Distributors. They show me some amazing beers, and I'm going to tell you about them today. First, we're going to be doing onion and beer soup using a dark beer, a Samuel Smith's dark beer. We're going to be doing mussels with a little pomegranate feel to it. Actually, not pomegranate. It's more like a Frambois, raspberry feel. Let's do that. We're going to do raspberry beer right there. Then we're going to take some organic cider from Samuel Smith's, and I'm going to put that with pork and apples. What gets better than that? That's all going to happen. Our journey with beer, our culinary journey with beer, starts now. Hey everybody, welcome back to A Culinary Journey. Listen, this is what we're going to be doing. We got our onion soup that I got to get up and running. So we're going to caramelize some onions. We're going to be doing that with the dark beer. Then we're going to be doing a little bit of mussels with I keep wanting to call it pomegranate, but it's the Frambois, the lambic beer. We'll talk more about that. And then using the cider and some onions also with our pork. But the most important thing is we get our onion soup up and running. So I'm going to slice my onions pretty much like a julienne, and I'll chop some up. I'm going to get my cast iron pan going on high because I want to get a nice quick sear initially. Get our oil in the pan, a little extra virgin olive oil. We're going to add some flavor to this too. At the end, we'll put in some fresh thyme and fresh flavors, but right now it's about the beer and the onions that I got to get going. All right, so when making any type of onion soup, it really starts with using a nice Spanish onion. Works well because they're going to have a lot of flavor, and then it'll caramelize nicely. Let's go one more. And getting them to cook down is the big key. The beer, the sugar in the beer is actually going to help that process. A lot like the sherry wine would be if you use sherry because it's a fortified wine. That would also help sweeten up the soup a little bit. So that's what we're going to try and do here. So we should be hot enough. Let's get this in there and see what we got going on. Yeah, could use a little bit more, but we'll let that cook down. We'll get those onions in there. We're going to season them real quick. And we could start on the next part of our dishes. All right, those are our onions. Get a little salt and pepper right on top of that. And we'll be adding the beer and a little bit of stock to that also. We're also going to do, what else? When you think of beer, you think of hot dogs, right? Well, you can think of almost anything when you think of beer. So instead of crusty, like an Italian bread or a focaccia or ciabatta bread on top of our onion soup, we're going to put hot dog buns that I'm going to pan sear and put a little bit of cheese on top of those. That'll be a lot of fun. So we got that. Where is our salt? There we go. Put a little bit of salt in there. This is our kosher salt we're using in there. And we're going to just leave that be and forget all about it. Well, that's going to be our soup course of what we're doing. We're going to be doing our pork in a second. But let's start getting our mussels ready too. So that we're going to need a little bit of shallots for. And if you've seen me do mussels or you've done mussels before, pretty much is one of the fastest things to cook up. A couple of keys about doing mussels is using mussels that are fresh. If they're a little bit open when you get them, you just want to bang them on the ground. And if they close up, they start to close up, that means they're still alive. See that? That's the important thing. So we want to check all our mussels to make sure they're okay before they go in. You probably lose about 20% of your mussels if you buy a full pound. You'll lose a small percentage of that, maybe a little bit less. And depending how fresh or how well you know your fishmonger, you'll get fresher mussels. So always try and get fresh mussels as fresh as possible. The day you buy them is the day you really want to be cooking with them. And the majority of these will close up before we cook. After we cook, the important thing after we cook is making sure they're all open. If they're not open, don't pry it open. Please don't pry it open. There's really no need for that. All right, so in this pan here, we'll put our oil, and we'll get some shallots working in there, and that's where our mussels are going to go, and they'll cook up quick, but they're our appetizer course, so we want them to be quick. And they're a great course to serve when you're serving with friends. When I use beer for different things, I have to remember when you do anything that when you concentrate it or bring it down to its strongest form, whether it's beer or wine, you've got to remember the flavors that you started with. That is going to be enhanced with the flavor that's in the beer. So for instance, the dark beer has a little bit of bitterness to it. I'm going to balance that off with a little bit of cider vinegar, a little bit of acid, and then the onion's natural sweetness. When we caramelize them, that's going to be a nice little balance. But the mussels, I want to give sweetness from the beer, and then this frambois, this raspberry frambois, is going to give you that kind of feel. The cider, we're going to get that apple flavor, again a little bit of sweetness, and that's going to help with the pork. So there's a reason why we're using certain beers for what we're doing. Let's take a look real quick at our onions as they're cooking down. We're going to turn this down in a little bit, but we want to start getting it really cooking, and then we'll turn it down to a lower heat so it caramelizes nicely and make a nice onion soup, nice onion soup. All right, put you back on there. All right, and here again, let's get the heat up on this because these mussels will start kicking. We got our shallots in there. The only other thing I want to put in there is a little bit of our beer because we're going to create a steam from the beer and the shallots. In this case, the frambois, what it's made from, when you think of a raspberry beer, it's actually colored. Here, let me show you what it looks like because that would be a nice thing. Raspberry beer is a Belgian-style wheat beer that is made with the flavor of raspberry. So you get all those nice colors in it. A little sweetness and great flavor. And what it does too, makes a great mimosa too. I don't know if I told you about this. This in the morning makes an ultimate mimosa. Not that I've tried that a couple of times, but all right. So we'll get our mussels in, and we're going to let our mussels, our beer, and our shallots kind of steam together with a little seasoning. So this is what we have going so far. We have mussels in a pan. We're just going to wait for those to cook up. We have our onions in the pan, and we're going to let those cook down. And we will start getting the onion soup ready by adding our stock, a little bit of thyme, and our beer in there. And we're going to check on our mussels and add some herbs to that also near the end. We'll eat the mussels, start that, and we'll finish off with our entree. Don't go away. We got a lot more coming up on our culinary journey. Hey everybody, welcome back to A Culinary Journey. Check out these onions. They're cooking down really nicely, caramelizing well, getting out some natural sweetness to them. And you want to check something out that's beautiful. These mussels are just coming out great. They're all opened up. They're sitting in our beer, and that raspberry is just kind of, we're going to add some mint to that. I just kind of came up with that. So now, with our onions here, we're going to put a little bit of this dark oatmeal stout. It's going to give it a little more bitter flavor. We're going to let that cook down. And some chicken stock. All right, we'll get those cooking in there. I got to say, always save a little beer to taste because that's important. Makes the day go better. A little bit of sherry wine vinegar, a little bit of acid to what we're doing. Lemon juice works well in here too. And we're going to let this soup cook down right now. We got all those flavors in there. We're going to put some herbs in there in a second. Actually, I want to drop some thyme in there, and we'll just pull. It's great when you have fresh thyme sprigs. You just pull right down the stalk, and you just push them right in, and they come right off. Perfect. You're good with that. Sometimes it's also nice to put the whole thyme in if you want, and you can just pull them right out if you don't want to have a lot of little pieces. We'll do one more, and we'll get that going, and then let this guy kind of settle in and finish itself up. Now the onion soup, we really don't have to do too much more. I'm going to do a little salt and pepper near the end. We do have to do one part, which is our garnish, which is our hot dog bun, and I'll show you all about that in a second. All right, this is that beer that was delicious. It's good. Even a little warm, it's not bad. It actually works. So I talked to you about, I mentioned, it's great by the way it is. It's awesome with a little bit of orange juice as like a mimosa kind of feel. And then you could warm it up and it tastes like a mulled wine because it has all those other, that raspberry flavor really comes out. And if you make a glaze out of it, it goes perfect on ice cream. Can you get much better than this? All right, so here we go. We're going to start our pork in the back here. We're going to get that going too. So this is easy. Well, we have pork medallions, or right off the pork loin, I've picked out, I've cut up about 1/2-inch pieces of pork because I want them a little bit thicker. And we're going to just dredge them in flour and put them in here. And the pan in the front is where I'm working on, let's see, that'll start popping up soon, is where I'm going to be working on my hot dog bun. And we'll talk about that in a second. Some herbs that we're going to use today while we're waiting for our pans to get hot are, the mint is going to go into our mussels. So I'm going to chiffonade that real quick and just leave it on top with some butter and let that kind of all melt together on our mussels. Oh, this is going to be such a great meal. There you go. We'll just let that finish off by itself because we don't want to overcook the mussels. So I shut them off and let them sit, but I'm not overcooking them. They're just staying nice and moist. All the flavors there, and they're getting a little bit of heat, just enough to keep going, but not too much where they're going to get rubbery. So those will be beautiful. Let's turn down our onion soup here in the back, just a tad, and check that guy out. Oh, that's going to be a beautiful soup. Can't go wrong with that. And then let's get our pork started. So we have our pan on in the back. We're going to just dredge in a little bit of flour. That was seasoned with some salt and pepper. And we get it cooking on the pan over here. We'll do 3 medallions for today. Now, we're going to cook everything in one pan. I'm actually going to not take anything out of these take the pork chops out of the pan because we're going to keep all the moisture in it. We're going to sear it first so it gets a nice sear on either side. And then we're going to cook the juice in. Now, what we don't want to do is boil a sauce around it because then it'll make them tough. But by searing them on both sides, we're going to actually be able to have the moisture stay in without them getting a little too tough. All right, let's get some oil in this pan over here for our seared hot dog buns. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Don't want to get too hot. And these we don't have to do much to. We're just going to cut them in because we want to use these on top of our soup. So the oil should be nice and hot, and we're searing it. If some of you have seen me do a caprese salad, I sear my bread too, right? Not caprese, my panzanella salad. I sear my bread instead of using old bread, and it comes out perfectly like this. All right. So we have our pork cooking right there. I'm going to season it just a little bit more. A little black pepper, some crushed sea salt. There you go. We'll get that going. Just keep an eye on your hot dog buns. You don't want to burn them. You just want to toast them. There you go. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And once I turn it over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it some cheese. And then we're going to take it off the heat. And everyone's going, why do you have hot dog buns on your set? And now I just showed you why. So we'll take that off. We're going to let those sit and relax. And we'll start putting together our pork. Turn it over on one side to get a little bit of caramelizing onto the flour right there. Look at that. That's going to be beautiful. A couple of additions to this. Now, if you want to go crazy and want to put onions in there and everything, apples in there, we could do that too. We could have apples and onions in it. I just like the onion because we're going to have enough of the apple flavor in there. And we're going to use a little what we call savory. It's an herb that just has a ton of flavor. Looks more like a tarragon than anything, but it's called savory. And it's going to go great with onions, apple, and the pork. So it's a great herb to use. So we're going to now sprinkle our onions in. Look at that. I'm going to let that cook down just a little bit. Season our onion again. All right. And at this point, this is where the magic really happens. We start caramelizing those onions with the pork, start getting a lot of flavor. So if you like, this is almost a great spot to add some sauerkraut to it. We've done this before where we've added some sauerkraut or some cabbage. You saute some cabbage into there and you'll have that same flavor. And this is the point where I'm going to start adding my beer, and it's going to steam everything together. Now that apple flavor is really going to kick in there, but we're going to add some flavors to that. So, just to recap where we are right now, I'm cooking down my beer and my onions and my pork together, make them nice and moist. My onion soup with the beer in it is really coming together nicely. Absolutely beautiful. My mussels just need a couple of tosses as the butter melts. I have my hot dog buns ready for my soup. When we come back, we're going to add a touch of cream to our pork, finish that sauce up, and then we're going to put all these 3 plates together so you can see it. So don't go away. We got a lot more coming up on our culinary journey. Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, so I'm putting my last touches on my pork dish right now. I put a little bit of cream, just kind of bring our whole sauce together. And I just need a little bit. That'll create some great sauce to it. Look at how that's starting to come together. And let's plate up everything we have. So we have our soup. That started out with, well, we had some chicken stock, onions, the dark Samuel Adams oatmeal stout, so you can do any type of stout you like. And we have a little bit of sherry vinegar in there. And we get that onion soup going. Look at that. Oh, messy yet beautiful. Right, so with that, we have our hot dog buns, right? We've got those ready with some cheese on top that go floating in our soup. And just as a little garnish, just for the heck of it, when you bring it to your table, there you go, a little thyme garnish because you know there's some thyme in there. How beautiful is that? That's one. Right, ready for two? Let's get the second one out. That is our mussels, where we took not pomegranate. I keep wanting to say pomegranate, but it's a raspberry beer, the Frambois, lambic Frambois. And we open up those mussels, steaming them in there. Put a little butter, fresh mint. Oh, that looks great too. Some shallots in there. We'll get all those guys in. That's a meal right there. We'll take some fresh mint and top that off real quick. So we use the sweetness of this beer to really pop with the mussels. All right, so that's two. Let's get that over there. Clean you up a little. And then finally, look how beautiful this comes out. Pork, onions, a little bit of an apple essence from the beer. We'll put these on. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this sauce together with this herb called savory. Looks like tarragon, but it just brings a lot of savory flavors. Huh? Look at that. That's the name of it. Some great flavors into this dish. It's going to go well with the apple and the onions. So we pop that in the last minute. We release the oils and give that a swirl. And sauce number 3, or plate number 3, is done with the pork. All 3 done with beers that have flavors, that could bring flavor to what you're doing. You be careful about what you're using the beer for, just like you do fortified wines or wines, and it just enhances everything you do. Things you would normally do just with beer, and you could drink it afterwards because you don't give it all away. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I will. I can't wait to dive into this, and I'll see you next time on A Culinary Journey. Brought to you in part by Monadnock Flooring and Decorating, offering quality sales, service, and installation for over 35 years on Production Avenue next to Subaru of Keene.